Hey, it's Yay for Yarn, and today I'm going to show you how to wax your needles for smoother knitting. So a lot of knitting needles are wooden. If you don't have some kind of metal needles, generally your needles are made of wood. And I don't think a lot of people realize that there is something you need to do to take care of your needles that will help improve the texture of the surface of the wood, as well as help your needles last as long as possible. And that is to wax and condition the wood. So just like you would apply some sort of oil or wax to a wooden cutting board, we do the same thing with knitting needles. And I just recently did this for the first time to some of my wooden knitting needles just to try it out. And the thing with wood is that over time it can get kind of dry. And so I applied a coat of this wood butter, which is made for cutting boards and wooden utensils. And this is basically made of mineral oil, beeswax, and a couple of different essential oils. The essential oils are optional, but you do need some kind of oil and some kind of wax. So they have lots of different varieties of similar products to this one. That is a mix of an oil and a wax. It's like a cream that you would rub on a wooden cutting board. So I have been doing this to my wooden knitting needles, and I think it really helps make the surface feel a lot nicer. Now the change that you will feel in your needles will depend on the kind of needles that you have. These are bamboo knitting needles from Amazon. These are like the cheapest needles you can possibly get, where you get like 18 sizes of needles for like $10 or less. These are the cheapy bamboo knitting needles, and after I have waxed them, they actually feel a lot nicer because they are smooth. They're not as rough. Bamboo is still not my first choice as a needle material, but they are much better than they were. So I have here a pair of the bamboo ones that I have not waxed yet, and it feels kind of rough and sandpapery in comparison. It's not near as scratchy as sandpaper, but meaning I can feel that the little scratchy texture to it, the roughness of the wood, because A, it's cheapy quality needles, and B, it is dry. So I'm going to apply this wax to this pair right here to show you how I do it. And then these right here are my KnitPicks needles. These are laminated birch, and I did these just to see what would happen, because I figured all these have a coating on them. They won't really need it. It won't do anything because they're already coated and it won't even penetrate. Well, it actually does penetrate. So even though these already had a coating on them and they didn't feel scratchy to me at all or dry, I still applied the wax anyway, and it does make a very nice smooth feel. It's not a drastic improvement over how it was before, but it definitely feels a little bit better after having applied the wax. Now I will also mention here that somebody makes a knitting needle wax that is pretty similar to just about anything you would find made for cutting boards, but that one retails for like $10 per 1 ounce jar, and I'm not willing to pay that when I can get the same thing that's marketed for a different type of use, even though it's the same kind of ingredients. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this to this pair of bamboo needles, and this kind of cream is something that you could also make yourself if you just melt some mineral oil or olive oil or whatever and some beeswax together. But if you don't have any on hand, this was pretty inexpensive, and this is like an 8-ounce jar. So I'm going to take my paper towel here and kind of wipe the cream, the wood butter, to get some on my paper towel. You can see that that's kind of shiny now. And I'm going to take one of these needles and rub it all over with the wood butter. I'm going to get a different spot on my paper towel and scoop up a little bit more because that was not enough. You want to apply a pretty generous amount, especially if you're dealing with a needle material that is kind of dry, like you can feel the dryness on it. So you just want to kind of rub it all over the needles, all over the surface, and make sure that you coat the entire thing, including the little stopper at the end. And you will probably get a little bit of it on your fingers, but there's nothing wrong with that. This is totally natural. There's no chemicals or anything in it. So I've rubbed this all over the needle. I want to take a dry part of the paper towel and wipe off any extra. And then according to the instructions, they recommend that you let it soak in for at least 30 minutes, but overnight is ideal. So I am just wiping off the like extra goopy, excess when there's a lot of excess, but there is still a pretty decent amount on here. I can feel it. It feels like it's got some cream on it. I can feel that in my fingers. So I will take this pair. Obviously these have already been done. I will take this pair and let them sit overnight to let this stuff soak into the wood and do its thing. And then the day after, then I'll just wipe it off with another dry paper towel. And I have found that this has done very well for all of the wooden needles that I've tried it on. I've also tried it on my Furl Streamline, by the way, which is a wooden crochet hook, and it worked very well. So this also applies if you have any wooden crochet hooks. It works well for that too. So I will let this pair sit overnight and soak up the oil and the wax, and then I will wipe it off tomorrow with a clean paper towel to get off whatever's left that did not soak in. So any type of wooden knitting needles or crochet hooks that you have are going to be benefited by using something like this on the surface, and I think it actually kind of makes the surface feel smoother after you have wiped off the extra the next day. So will I do this to all of my needles and hooks that are made of wood? Yes, but you don't need to do this to them all the time. There's not a whole lot of information about this on the internet, but from what I found, you only need to do this to knitting needles and crochet hooks about once a year or maybe once every 6 months. So you can kind of go by however dry you think your needles feel. If you feel like after 6 months you want to do it again, go for it. But I'm planning on doing this about once a year for all of my wooden knitting needles and hooks. And I think it really does help make the surface feel a lot smoother, and this helps the stitches glide better. So whenever your wooden hooks or needles start to feel dry on the surface, then just apply a coat of some kind of wood butter and let it soak in, wipe off the extra the next day, and they will feel just like new, if not better. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you have ever applied any kind of conditioning cream to your wooden knitting needles or crochet hooks in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, making sure you click the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of new videos. Thanks for watching.